Let's Talk Small Business, the real talk, no BS podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to grow and actually enjoy the ride. I'm Mitchell Wilson. Let's get into it. Today's guest, Josh Sprague, founder of Orange Mud, Seven Clay, and Anvil Acre. Josh is a true operator here. He's built multiple businesses from scratch over the last 14 plus years. What started as frustration with bad hydration gear turned into a recognized endurance brand and trusted by athletes worldwide. Since then, he's expanded into custom apparel with Seven Clay, and now he helps other businesses build real marketing systems through his fractional CMO firm. Now, he's also completed over 500 endurance races, so he understands discipline, consistency, and doing the hard work when no one's watching. So this is a conversation about building products and businesses that actually solve problems, staying close to your customer, and doing, I guess, the unglamorous work that turns ideas into real businesses. Josh, let's talk small business.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you being here. And that intro is pretty cool.
That's all you. That's all you. So, okay, let's go back to the beginning of this business journey. Take us back to that moment. I'm presuming in your garage. What exactly frustrated you enough to start Orange Mud?
Sure. Yeah. Back in the day, I was doing a lot of training for Ironman, marathon, adventure racing. And throughout all those sports, I didn't like how a lot of the packs felt. They were either too big, too heavy, they moved around on you, they would rub you, or you'd have to use waist packs or handhelds to carry fluids. And I don't like either one of those. And one day I decided I wanted to do something about it. And I was tired of using all the other tools that were on the market. And I had this idea in my head for a long time. And I went in the garage, I destroyed a gun holster, a ratchet strap, a waist pack, and then I took a hotel sewing kit that I had taken from a hotel, and I sewed together this crude concoction, probably used a staple gun and some glue, if I remember right, and built the first prototype. Again, I'd had in my head for years, but I went out and went for a run. I came back, told my wife, said, hey, we're going to start a business. It's probably going to cost $50,000. Worst case, we're going to have two backpacks worth $25,000 each, perfectly designed for us. And best case, say, we'll have a business. And yeah, it took off. Took a while, but that was January 2012. And by October 2012, we launched our first production grade product at a triathlon, half Ironman, actually. And then, it just took off from there. Been growing ever since.
So just a couple of questions in there. I mean, first of all, I'll point out the differences. I'm in New Zealand, you're in Texas. We wouldn't have a gun holster lying around.
Right.
Okay? A little bit different in our country. But how hard was that sell to your partner, to your wife there? Because everyone has to go through that. Sometimes it's not easy.
Yeah, well, at the time, so she was a lawyer and I was a VP at a big device company. And it was something that one of our jobs had to give because my son was 3 months old. And I realized upon having our first child that they're sick all the time and you can't just send them off somewhere. And we didn't have any family out there close to us. So it was something where one of our jobs had to give. We couldn't both work 100 hours a week. And so I was like, hey, this is going to be probably just a hobby. I didn't really think it would ever, I didn't have like this grand vision, right? Like the grand vision was I'm going to make something cool. People are going to like it. But ultimately, I designed it for me and my wife, and I thought this would be fun. But I really didn't know where it would go from there. So, but ultimately, she knew one of us had to give up our day jobs. Right. Or we needed to at least reduce hours somehow. And that isn't very possible in either one of those fields. So, yeah, she being sleep deprived, and neither one of us had slept in those 3 months, nor for the first next year and 3 months, probably. I think it was a year, and he was a year and a half before he ever slept, about the time my daughter was born. And so I think at that point she was like, whatever, you just do what you want.
Well, I remember going through that same experience. I'd actually just sold one business and my wife just holds up her fingers and says, 4 days, Mitchell. Took you 4 days to end that business and come with a new idea to come back. I thought we're having a break.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Now, a lot of people feel frustration or have an idea but don't actually act on it. What made you actually build something and do it instead of just complain?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have raced a lot, and it's not like I'm always awesome either, right? Sometimes it's just because I want something comfortable. Like I've always told people, it's ironic that I basically own a running company. I do own a running company, but I don't even like running that much, even though I do run quite a bit. I know those things don't necessarily make a lot of sense, but to me, I just wanted to enjoy running. And when you go for a run, I need to carry fluids because everything I do, I like to do for a long time. If I'm going to go for a run, the thought of running for 20 minutes is just not my thing. No offense to people who like to do that. I have a really hard time going for a 30-minute run. If I'm going to go for a run, I want to go for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. And cycling, same thing. I don't even touch my bike unless I'm going to ride for at least an hour. And so to me, it was a problem that I needed to solve for me. And I believed a lot of people had those same frustrations. And yeah, I just thought, what the heck? You might as well do it. And again, tying that in with my, one of our jobs had to change. I just figured, I've worked for, people for a long time building businesses, and I'd done it 3 times in a row where I took businesses from small to big. And each time I was like, well, I did it 3 times and I was directly responsible for it. It's not like I happened to work there and the business grew. I was the guy leading everything, change, growth, systems, everything. And a lot of it, I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned more and more as I went. So I figured, man, I've already got this foundational framework of growing enterprise, and I've done it 3 times. So surely it's not just luck. 1 time, maybe, 2nd time. But I figured, man, I've done it 3 times, and I put up the fight so hard. The growth is hard. And it still is to this day. But I just figured surely I can make this work. And again, worst case, I'm out 50 grand. Not to say 50 grand is a small number, but it's something that I love so much. I love the outdoors. I want to get people out and run or ride outside. That's my passion. I love dirt. I love getting people outside. I think it can fix a lot of problems in the world. But it was an easy thing for me to go after because it's a passion, something that I could maybe make some money at potentially, but ultimately I just wanted to build a brand that could maybe change things.
Talking about Run Company, have you read Shoe Dogs by Phil
I have,
yeah. I really love that story.
It's awesome. Yeah, I'm about 8 trillion times smaller than they are, or than Nike is, but
Hey, listen, when did it shift from experiment to actually this is a real business?
Yeah, I would say it was about 2 years in. So my wife quit her job first, and she waited until we were about maybe, I think, just over a year in. And then we were about 2 years in. We were closing up. It was actually going on almost 3 years. And as we were closing out the year, I remember our net profits were $24,000. But I, like many startup founders, had wasted an incredible amount of money frequently. And Facebook ads back in 2012, 2013, 14, even to this day, is kind of like a crystal ball. Sometimes you rub it and things work out. Sometimes you rub it and it's broken. You just don't really know how Facebook ads is going to go. And back in the day, I because I had a day job, I could be a little more, I wouldn't say reckless, but sometimes I'm like, yep, boost that post, just full throttle. It's working with $20 a day. Let's see what $500 a day does. And then poof, that money's gone. And so I knew I had wasted a lot of money. I did an infomercial because these guys sold me on this TV thing. And, if you ever read the book Traction, it's a perfect example of all the things that he tells you not to do in there. I did pretty much every single one that's in there. Like I read this book like 2 years after I started the business, and I'm like, yeah, I did that. And I did that. I did that. I did all these things. Like I did all of them wrong. And I think a lot of people do that. There's just an incredible amount of waste. So when I saw that I was hitting this kind of critical point that I couldn't work enough hours in both companies, my company and my day job, as well as being a dad. I just couldn't do it all. I wasn't sleeping. I hadn't slept in probably 2 years. So, seriously, I hadn't had a dream in years. And one day I just was like, man, I can't do this. I think if I quit, we only made 24 grand last year for the whole year. And we lived in California. Our burn rate was almost that in a month. And so that wasn't going to work. So I say, you know what, we're going to set aside 100 grand. And we are going to leave California because we don't need to be here anymore. My job's not here and yours isn't either. And our job was here, it was at our house where we ran it. And I was like, we're gonna leave Colorado and we're gonna go through 100 grand. And if we go through 100,000, I'm going back to work. And hopefully we don't go through $100,000 and we can actually make this go.
What time frame did you give yourself with that 100?
I didn't give myself a time frame because I knew that at the current burn rate, 100 grand wouldn't last that long. I figured it'd last about a year. I had figured it would be about a year, but I really didn't know what it would play out to be. But it actually was almost to clockwork. We got a year from then from that moment. And over that time, we moved, I think 2 months later, to Colorado is where we took our business from California. We're in Texas. We didn't last long in Colorado. We didn't like the cold. But we went to Colorado and within 2 months, I believe. And it was in December that year, we were down to 16,000 in that bank account because we were paying ourselves nothing. We didn't pay ourselves anything for I don't even know. Well, that was that third year, I guess. And I paid myself 50 grand, which, ultimately when you're running a business is nothing because you may need that 50 grand. You may need 12 times that or 20 times that or more very quickly for inventory. We grew year after year after year after year, which growth all sounds great, but most people don't understand growth takes money. Inventory, when you're an inventory-based business, and you've got a 6-month turn from time you've cut the purchase order to the time it arrives. And a lot of that money has been paid, if not all in the beginning, at least pieces. It's brutal. So, you need to make a lot more than that. Whether you pay yourself that or the business does, you have to make a lot more. So yeah, it was definitely a leap of faith backed with somewhat of a checking account for that. And I didn't by any means look at burning $100,000 lightly. It's just, I had hit a point in my career where I knew I could always go back to it. I just didn't want to. And to me, there was only a path forward. And that's just where it went. So we got lucky that it worked.
Let's just stop there for a second and say, hey, look, if you only got minimal funds from this company, like paying yourself, maybe that's 50 grand or whatever it may be, and that's all you're getting from it, would you rather be doing this business or would you rather be going to work at corporate again for a big paycheck? What would the answer be?
Yeah, and the answer is still doing this. And I've told people this many times, especially, I've had a lot of people say, hey, you have companies and all, and, would you help me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. First bit of advice, make sure you got a big chunk of cash sitting in your bank account. And second, you should probably keep your day job if you like to do all the fancy things you do. It's something that, I have no regrets at all. I wouldn't trade the life that I have now for what it used to be. I used to do really well. My wife did really well. And I don't know if we'll ever make that amount that we used to that long ago. We were at the top of the food chain, income wise, both of us. And so to go away from that on a passion-based business in e-commerce, which seems to get beat up more and more every year, it's a brutal market and it's just a different animal. But that being said, I get to my son's track meet this week. I'll be there. Yeah. I'll be there as long as I need to be. I'll be at the soccer games. Last week, it was their spring break. Did we have an insane amount of stuff going on? Yes, we did. My daughter and I did a 2-day motorcycle ride. My son and I did a 4-day e-bike hunting trip down by the border. We went fishing and hiking and out to lunch in the middle of the day. I mean, it's the things you can do as a business owner where, I just told my team, I really need your help this week to not, let me have my own time because I don't do it that often. But when we need to disappear for a 3-day weekend for soccer tournaments, we do it, and that's the cool part about it. There's a lot of perks to it. I do work from home most of the time. My office runs pretty well without me, which is great. And so I'm able to be here when, there's something going on. Or, we get to see our kids off to school. How do you put a price on that? Yeah. So there's definitely days where, my wife and I are like, maybe we should have kept our day jobs. We probably could have been retired by now. But at the same time, hey, you know what? You might as well keep working and just enjoy life.
Okay. So talking about e-commerce products, what do you think were some early mistakes you made around product, pricing, or distribution? Yeah. So the first part, I'd say on the product side, I've been lucky in where I really spend a lot of time with everything. And I produced some products that didn't sell like I thought they would, but they always sell through, but it's product wise, I sweat every detail and I take a long time to do it. I'm slow with bringing new products to market because I don't want anything to fail. I can't afford them to fail, right? It's too expensive. I mean, I don't think a lot of people appreciate how expensive some of these builds are. I've had to wire off, build costs of over $1 million for backpacks. That hurts. It's frightening. When we were little, it's like, God, that backpack order cost $5,000. And then we get bigger and it's like, ooh, that backpack order is $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, $500,000, $800,000, $900,000. And as those things scale, you all of a sudden start to realize I can't screw up. It's too big. And it's a scary feeling and one in the beginning that I was a little more uneasy with. But, over the years, you just have to learn to trust the math and
pray a little bit, hope it works out. But it's, when it comes to the products, overall, I've been pretty lucky. If anything, probably my biggest weakness is I'm slow. I take a long time to make things, to not flood things and whatnot. But from a wasteful spending, some of the biggest mistakes there for sure were doing like that freaking TV infomercial. Like I said, it sounded great. They're like, oh, your transition wrap, the seat cover I have product. They're like, that thing's going to be perfect. I'm like, really? You think so? I'm like, yeah, it's only going to be $15,000 or something like that. I forget what it was. It was a lot. And at the time, I'm like, we're going to get a lot of content. This could be good. And then hocus pocus, the next thing you know, those guys, the Outdoor Sports Network or whatever it was, went bankrupt, and it was just a waste of money. But I would say between that and then not researching channels well enough, with Facebook, 6 months in, I buried myself in Facebook, and I never have stopped. I mean, it's what I was working on, leading up to our call, and I have people to help me manage it. Even so, it's still a monster.
Is Facebook, that your biggest channel right now?
It is, yeah. Facebook is still the heavy lifter. Now, I will say Google is great, and we get a higher ROAS on Google, but we have a little bit harder time ramping it. Currently, I'm actually banned on Google because hackers hacked my account last Tuesday and blocked me from my account and spent $20,000. So that's also fun. So right now I actually am not running any Google ads, thankfully. If you see a Google ad from Orange Mud, it's probably not even me. And so that's a whole nother animal. But yeah, I would say it was like in the beginning, not studying channels enough. Like I was trying to be good at everything. And so you're running Facebook ads and you're running Instagram ads and Google ads and Amazon ads and all these, you really need to pick a channel and just do good at it until you're great. And then add a second channel and then do good at it until you're great. And then the third and so on. In the beginning, I tried to do, just be great at everything, which made me suck at most everything except for Facebook, where I spent the bulk.
Hey, Josh, you mentioned before that, hey, when it starts off, you're writing checks for maybe $5,000, then that grows and grows to 100,000, millions. What's the biggest mindset shift business owners need around cash and growth?
Yeah. Have a lot of it and have a lot of it's probably the first part. But, I would say the number one thing is you got to do your cash flow projections. And I'm speaking somewhat at the same time. I'm slapping myself because I'm not the best at it. But man, you've got to do your cash flow projections. You got to understand, you're selling through on an inventory based business. If you're selling through really well, that's great. But you need to plan for that. You need to say, okay, well, if my total cost of sales, if my COGS are, 30% of a transaction and my sales are up, then if you did $1 million, you need at least $300,000 to be able to pay for that $1 million to recoup it. I mean, you can do some real basic math like that. And even for me, sometimes I get real complicated and I'm like, well, actually, this is pretty straightforward. I did X amount last month and I need 30% of that money set aside just to be able to replenish the cost of goods. That doesn't factor cost of advertising and overhead and all these other things. Yeah, man, you've got to plan for growth and you have to plan for, having them cash reserves for it. It's one thing I know I was really bad about in the beginning. And every year, my wife always loved it in Q1 because here I'm working on wrapping up the previous year's taxes, which always made me angry because between my bookkeeper and CPA, it was never very fluid. And then we usually have like, oh yeah, and by the way, here's this giant bill from our factory in Vietnam. And that was painful. So I didn't plan for it well. I sold through. I'm like, I don't know why profits are so good. I was spending too much time focusing on advertising and the return on ad spend than I was, building that cash basis to be able to cover new inventory demands that were going to be happening in the future. And then the third piece I will say is the beginning, I was naive. I did the first 3 years of business, I did all Made in America. And that was something I was really passionate about. And I'd still love to be passionate about. I think everybody wants to support their own home country, right, as much as humanly possible. But I had a big brand that I was pitching one of my products to. He told me, he's like, yeah, I love your product, but you're naive and an idiot if you think anybody cares about Made in America. And I was like, okay, thanks, prick. But he was right. And ultimately, he was right in two ways. I had in my brain it as a really important piece. But here's the piece that I always try to tell people, or anybody that's ever, questioned me on this, because I built a business on it and then I changed. And some people kind of judge me on that, which I don't blame them. But I told people this, is that if I kept building it Made in America, I wouldn't be in business right now. And bankrupt, or I would have shut it down because we did not have enough profit. The cost the selling cost in e-commerce is really high. I don't think most people appreciate that. Yeah, okay, sure. It's not super expensive to build a backpack. Could I sell it for a lot less? Yeah, sure. But you'd never hear of us. We could never grow. We could never sponsor the hundreds of races that we sponsor. We can never put money into advertising. We don't have any money for development. That's where, like most brands, all brands out there do the same thing. We produce overseas because you want to build a quality product, so you can't take sacrifices, at least we don't, but you need that margin baked in to be able to pay for the development costs and to be able to afford the inventory demands and to be able to afford international sales growth, domestic sales growth, and wholesale growth, and be able to work with all those channels. Like for me, the piece I didn't even appreciate, we had all kinds of people around the world wanting to carry our products in the beginning. And when we give them my normal retail pricing, and they're like, no, like, dude, like, no, you're crazy. I'm like, well, I mean, what do you expect to pay? They're like, well, we need a lot off retail. And I was like, well, I don't have a lot off to give you, so sorry. As soon as I went overseas, instantly added, 20 countries in that first year from distribution. Yep. New Zealand is one of them, as a matter of fact, and still is to this day. Mark Drew over there. And so it's something that I think sometimes we go and we try dying on our sword when we just didn't appreciate that you need to go to the best place to be able to produce what it is you're producing. Yep. And that's it. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Because no one cares. That guy who I was mad at and still kind of am, he was ultimately right. And you have to kind of think about that sometimes.
You put those two products in front of someone and you say, hey, look, they're the same. Yeah. This one is $200 more. Which one are you going to buy? Yeah.
Well, and not only that, for me, when I went overseas, I went to Vietnam, where my factory is. It was better. It was better than on every level than what we were doing stateside. And, that was a bummer. It was great for me, but I was surprised that would be the case. You would think you're producing domestically with people that are making a significantly higher income would be a better thing, but it wasn't, because it limited my ability to work directly with factories from resin and fabrics and whatnot. Everything I do, I spec direct to the factory, and then it goes direct from factory overseas to the factory that produces for me, and they are just machines. But it's not like it's a sweatshop. People all knock on that side of third world, but there's a lot of ill truths to it. A lot of these factories are very clean. They're respectful. People make a good wage for the market that they're in. Mine is clean as a whistle. You could eat off the floors.
Now, you said before that, hey, look, I dove right into likes of Facebook, really trying to learn and own that space. But you've also mentioned just before that, hey, we've sponsored a whole lot of events. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that strategy and how it affected how you do business and what's resulted from that.
Yeah. So we, in the very beginning, I don't have the budgets that, Nike or whoever does, some giants. And so I thought I wanted to be out and I wanted to get consumer feedback, which was the really important piece. Everything I've designed, especially all the early products, were all very novel. They were all different. And so it helped to be able to be in front of somebody's face and say, hey, let me show you how to wear this backpack. Let me show you how to optimize the fit. Let me show you, this, that, whatever. And plus I thought this is pretty cool because I can actually go out and race, especially when I didn't work a billion hours. I'm like, I can go to a race. I can talk with all these people that are going to be my customers. I get to go out and actually race because, I'm here on legitimate business, even though my wife is home with my two children that are both itty bitty. And, I still had a little bit of, get out of jail free card from the result. And I thought, man, this is just winning all the way around. And it was. And so it was a lot of grassroots marketing that, again, it did benefit me if I'm being selfish. I did get to exercise. I did have a reason to train. But again, in growing a business, I needed to learn from others. And it was great because I could go on a run and I'd be running next to somebody that had one of my backpacks on. I'm like, hey, how you like that backpack? And I've done this thousands of times in races, and I never tell anybody who I am until they answer. And I have yet to ever hear anybody give me negative feedback. Everybody's like, oh, dude, it's just brand Orange Bud. It's really cool, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. It's mine. Awesome. I just thank you. You're awesome. And it's always inspiring, and it makes you realize what we're doing is making other people happy. And that's that's the goal of my company, right? It's just make people happy. So it's been a really cool way to grow the business, and we don't exhibit as many races anymore. When we started this, it was a growing sport. Like trail running was growing, ultra running was growing, gravel biking started up, which is another growing sport. It still continues to grow. Mountain biking has kind of waned over the years, but I still am very, very, very passionate mountain biker. But it allowed us to be at the right place at the right time to grow in the trail running space. And I'm forever thankful for that, because new customer acquisition is hard. But if you gain a customer in person, you know that pack is going to be fit the best for them, and you're going to get the best result. They're for sure going to wear it right, because I'm going to tell them how to do it. I've been out on course. I'm like, if you don't mind, that pack is being worn too loose, and that's why it's bouncing right back. Just tighten it. And they tighten it, like, oh yeah, it's 1,000 times better. I'm like, they're going to go and they're going to tell their friends, and their friends are going to help educate other people. And that's where we ultimately won from the grassroots strategy is we created better education, humanization of the brand, and made people realize, like, hey, you know, we're here just like you. I'm in the middle of the pack just like you are. So it's been a really fun way to grow the business.
Now, you just mentioned before about customer acquisition, but it can be hard. Really good segue to go into Anvil Acre, okay? So you now help other businesses as a fractional CMO. A lot of small businesses struggle with marketing that actually converts. What are they getting wrong?
Yeah, usually a lot of things. But this side, it started, over the years, I've just helped numerous people on this category. And it's just something I realized, like, I like building business. I don't like running business. I really don't. I actually hate the day-to-day. I hate cash flow projections. Hate it with a passion. This is not my jam. That's way too boring. I'd rather be designing things and growing things and working on optimizing the conversion funnel and making sure that that's optimal. So yeah, I would say the first step is probably just the basics. Have a website. Have a website that's clean with a call to action. What do you want people to do when you go to your website? You want them to contact you? Make sure you have big red button. I always go nuclear. I had a guy that I fired years ago. He was kind of a prick, to be honest, but he told me, he's like, Josh, you always speak in maxims. One day he told me that, and I was like, no, I don't. But then, as I've realized over the years, I kind of do. But I think of him all the time when I say, anytime that I'm working on a website, I'm like, I need the nuclear button. And sometimes I've even tried design. I've never got actually a design, but the long and short of it is, you need the nuclear call to action. That is, contact us today, complete this assessment form, fill out this, our relevant information to be able to get information from us. And then from there, you need to have it go to something basic. It doesn't need to be complicated. You can have the most basic website on the planet that's just clean and looks professional, which is really easy to do with AI right now, let alone help from somebody that knows. And then make sure that form, goes to a body, or at least an automated message that is going to be read by a body in a CRM system. And then manage those leads. If you're not managing your leads, what are you doing? I can't tell how many people, myself included, I've not always been perfect, but when it comes to lead management, it's the best thing you can ever do is manage your leads and nurture them.
Okay. Now, you mentioned before that, hey, you're deep into Facebook, even today. Okay. So we're talking here, we are March 2026. What's working right now for you in the Facebook?
Sure. Yeah. Facebook is admittedly a brutal category, and to me, it's been brutal over this past year. So in my Orange Mud business, for example, we're finding Advantage Plus campaigns that still works the best. And we still drill down into the different interests, and man, it's still a lot of ad copy. I've never been one that believes in changing ad copy like monthly, like a lot of people do. I've never agreed with that. I've had a lot of agencies that work for me over the years, and I have fought with them tooth and nail, where I'm like, stop changing the freaking ad copy. Just let it work. It takes a while. Facebook is slow. It's like trying to get the freaking government to do something, right? So you gotta commit to, I believe, and I know this is probably speaking a little bit differently than what a lot of people say, but I believe you get ad copy that you believe in, that define what your audience wants and their pain points. You get copy that solves those pain points, and then you drive home with that, and then just test the different same thing. Test the different call to actions, that goes with it. Once you get something to work, man, just keep nurturing it and get that to scale. Turn off the other stuff, and then work on your next one, right? It's just like being an expert at a channel. Get one campaign to work and then go to the next. But yeah, for me, Advantage Plus, driving home in, our sweet spots, trail running, marathons for great for us. That still performs well. Now, that being said, I will say the one other piece everybody should have is strong attribution software, because Facebook will lie to you and it drives me nuts. According to Facebook right now, I'm getting like a 6 times ROAS on the account. And that is not true. Right now, it's more like a 2. For us, March is a weird time of year. March is when people are training, but they're not really investing very much in hydration. But you have to be running your ads to be able to get them warmed up for conversion in April, really rolling into May, June, July, August, September, our peak months. So for us, it's always the time of year where I kind of even hate to spin because the conversions aren't that great. I don't like a 2 times ROAS. And I only look for better. But yeah, I would say make sure you're using software. Over this past year, I've been using one called True ROAS, but there's Triple Whale and there's a lot of different things. But like True ROAS, I think it's $100 a month. And I get to see, and what I like is they segregate my view-through conversions versus click-through conversions. And I always tell people, I do not care about view-through conversions. Unless you're Coca-Cola, it doesn't matter. I like click-through conversions. That's what gets me. Like if I see I have a 3 times ROAS on click-throughs, man, let's go for a run. It's going to be a good day. Bike ride. I don't know. Maybe go have a cocktail. But man, if I'm getting anything less than that on click-throughs, then I'm disappointed. But you would never know it unless you had good attribution software that tells you that, because Facebook will never tell you those details.
So you understand the season in terms of right now you're spending, the return's not there, but that's warming up your audience for the months to come. So let's say someone is starting out on Facebook or starting that journey. How long do you think they need to stick at it until they start seeing that some kind of return?
The hardest part is that in the beginning, you probably won't know when your seasons are. It's been warm out here. This is a perfect example. This year, and we've had this happen over the years now, multiple times, where it has been unseasonably warm across the entire United States, most of the whole entire United States since February, or even late January. So in theory, you would think, wow, it's been nice and warm outside. Everybody's out running and riding. It's not the case. In my opinion, I believe that it is tied to children's soccer. And sports, children's sports.
I'll just correct you. We'll call it football over here.
Yeah, it's football. Right, correct. Yeah, and so like every year, for the example, so every year we'll be really strong until about mid to late August, and then I have what I call broke parent effect. And that's all the kids went back to school. All the parents had to spend all their money on their children, and then their children, they're basically now Uber drivers for the children. And there's no time to train and race. And so why would you go buy backpacks and other workout accessories? Yep. So I never understood it because I'm like, wow, it's still warm. Why would people not be training? I didn't understand it because at the time my kids were really, really young and I didn't realize the limitations. But now once I have a 12 and a 14-year-old, there's definitely limitations. I mean, our kids are in sports pretty much 6 days a week. So understanding the seasonality is one of the first things that you need to figure out. And you're probably not going to figure that out for a while. But even like my 7-clay business, it's the same thing. January, February, March, we got leads piling in left and right. But I can tell you, after doing this going on our 7th year now, every year, January to March, it's like that. We get a lot of people that are kicking around things. They want to build hats and shirts and all this, but they're not converting. And it's just bizarre. I'm like, how on earth do we send 500 quotes or whatever in February, and we only converted like 1% of them? That's not how it'll be. If we sent 500 quotes in June, we're going to convert 5, maybe 8% of those. It's just an entirely different metric. But again, you won't know that until you've done it a year. So I guess, obviously, I would say the first step is, whatever your business. Like if you're a plumber, there's probably plumbing problems year round. And I would run your testing never less than 2 weeks. Commit to 2 weeks. You just got to suck it up. It sucks, but you got to suck it up. Spend at least $10-20 a day, ideally 30, or probably 30 is a good spot. For 2 weeks. And if you're not seeing anything, then maybe reevaluate, stop, try something else. But there's definitely plenty of businesses. I mean, if you have anything like mine, you need to be probably spending a month, 2 months at a time testing ads, and you're going to spend some money. It's easy to spend small amounts of money too. I will say that, and get conversions. Facebook likes to let your $10 a day budgets convert well. But good luck getting the same at 30 or 50 or 500 a day. That's a whole different beast in itself.
So I'm just sort of thinking here that you run a variety of businesses, so from products to service.
Yeah.
Does that affect the way you advertise each product versus a service?
Sure,
How's
100%.
that run? Yeah, what would be the difference?
Products are more, for us, it's either emotional, playful, or science-based is how we kind of pitch those are our three categories that we really focus on showing basically how we're different and how it's going to help you to run better. And hey, we're kind of fun, playful company, and we just want to get people out there. And so that one's a pretty straightforward approach. Obviously, if we're just sticking on the Facebook channel, that's really how it's going to work. And then say on my service-based business, on both, we focus on conversion channel. And like for me with 7Clay, I have learned that most people do not know how to mock up anything, even though AI now you can do some cool stuff. But most people don't even know. They're like, I had a guy today. He's like, I have 50 versions of my logo. I'm like, I only need one. Look for the one that says PDF at the end of it. That's it. So he's like, oh, okay, cool. And they still sent me them all, which is fine. But on our side, we learned that it doesn't matter how fancy our website is. Like we have pretty fancy back end on our website. It allow you to go and design all your own stuff. I've got like 8 orders in 6.5 years now on people actually filling stuff out. Like it's a miracle. And that happens. I want to give it to them for free because I'm so amazed that I had no expense to get that order. I'm like, this is awesome. I think I've called every single person that's ever placed an order on their own where I'm like, are you okay? Something wrong? So we've learned that. So like right now, for example, we have our website being rebuilt again. And I am dumbing down things to the absolute bare bones of products for people to look at. Otherwise, we're just talking about service. We're just talking about, here's what we do with caps. Here's why we're better than everybody else. Here's why we do shirts. And here's what we do with laser engraving. Here's the contact page. That's it. I just want it simple. I want to educate you on how we do each piece so you can see like, okay, these guys know what they're talking about. And I want that style and I want that color. And just contact. And I'm going to send these guys my info. I'm going to give them a pile of stuff and they can figure it out. That's what we learned for us is that we just want to solve people's problems. That's it. So don't make it overly complicated. So so the businesses definitely are different. But I think in a service-based business, there's so many service-based businesses out there that ultimately your job is solving the people's problem. If you're a service-based business, that is your job. And so make their life as easy as possible to get you the bare bones of information that you need to be able to make a decision with how you can at least start the conversation to help them. And you will do a lot better than having a giant website full of a bunch of random crap that no one is going to look at. Yeah, keep it simple and solve the problem.
Now, I better touch on this. You've done over 500 races. How does that endurance sports, I guess I'll call it, I reckon that shaped how you run your business?
Yeah, so it's definitely, somebody asked us this other day, and I thought it was, it's something I never really thought a whole lot about. It's ultimately one foot in front of the other. And one of my favorite parts with racing is that, and I've told people, I'm like, look, I've won races, and I've literally been at the front, and I've been dead last. And then I've been a whole bunch in the middle and other pieces, right? And I don't really care, especially at this age, I don't care where I finish. I just want to finish. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to finish faster. I don't put in the time anymore. I don't have the time between children and work, but I don't care either. It's about the experience to me. Like I'm doing a 24-hour race in 3 days, and it's a 24-hour adventure race, and I can't wait. I'm really excited. I'm racing with 2 friends of mine, and we are going to be running, biking, kayaking for 24 hours. And I'm sure none of us are really trained for this because none of us have paddled our kayaks more than like twice in the past year, but we're going to be just fine. And we all have that mindset of just we like the challenge, and I think it's part of being a business owner. You appreciate that things are going to be hard, probably every day. But it makes it fun to be like, okay, how are we going to solve this problem? And so I try to solve everything with a smile on my face. And again, I'm not always perfect at it, but in racing, there's only one path, and it's forward. And just have fun getting there, and eventually it's going to work out, hopefully.
I hear what you're saying, because in business, things can get boring. Things can get hard. But it is just about staying consistent. Like you said, just keeping one foot in front of the other. That's all it is.
It is. There's always, it seems like there's always an uphill climb. It's like your parents growing up, like, hey, we had to walk uphill and snow every day to school. I'm like, well, it's kind of true in business. There's always a new challenge. Just when you feel like everything's going smooth too, there's always some new problem where you're like, man, where did this come from today? You know? I mean, it's just always something. But it's good.
Hey, Josh, if you had to start again tomorrow with business, what do you reckon you'd do first?
Man, I would do something that is not in the product space because I don't like inventory. It's one thing I've learned. Inventory sucks. It's definitely been the one thing that's caused the most amount of stress in my life. And I'm not one that really ever stresses about many things, but inventories, it's brutal when you know, like, oh man, we got a big check on this one that's going to hurt. But it would not be an inventory-based business. Honestly, like, if I had to start something else, it'd be largely like what I'm doing with Anvil Acre. It'd be helping people to scale a business without, it wouldn't be something I would want to help people scale a business where it's, I have a business, but it's helping other people to grow theirs. I think it's more enjoyable to see people growing and see their success than, I guess, I know it's kind of a weird answer. I would equate it to like seeing my kids be successful at things now. I don't need credit anymore. I've got enough credit in my life. I think a lot of us when we're younger, we want credit for things, right? We're like, I did that and I did that. Anymore, I don't even care. I'm like, man, I want everybody else to do it and be awesome because I don't even want any more responsibility. I want to give away as much responsibility as I possibly can. Hence where on my side, I think it would be something where I help to build other people's businesses that aren't my own just to help them win and be successful.
Well, it really resonates with me because that's exactly what I do and what we do at Coachbirds. So I love what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh, really appreciate you coming on today, sharing your story and your wisdom and your experience that you've learned along the way.
Sure.
Look, where's the best people for people to find you? So we better give you your Orange Mud and all the rest of your businesses a bit of a plug. Where are they going to find your stuff and connect with you?
That's at orangemud.com, at sevenclay.com, at anvilandacre.com. And from all those, you can find me on any channel that we're tied to afterwards. So if you just Google my name, you'll probably find me too. So I'm pretty easy.
I love it. Yeah. So look, if you're listening to this episode and it got you thinking differently about your business, whether it's sales, systems, or strategy, guys, that is the point. So if you do want help identifying your biggest bottleneck, mapping out your next smart move, you can also book a free breakthrough session with myself and the Coachbirds team. Thanks again, Josh. Really enjoyed this one. And for everyone listening, keep building, stay consistent. And remember, the hard work you do today compounds over time. That's been great, Josh.
Likewise. Thank you.
Let's talk small business. I appreciate you tuning in. If you got value, hit subscribe, like, or drop a comment. It spreads the word and might just help another legend get their breakthrough.